Hello my chemical consumers and chemical enjoyers. I love survival games. The gameplay, the atmosphere, the companionship and the passion that goes into making them is just magical. And there are so many great survival games out there, from hits like Minecraft to The Forest to Rust. These are just some of the amazing games that this genre has to offer. But what is the best? Well, many Microcritic games like Darkwood for its fresh take on the horror survival series, or Terraria for its interesting take on the genre, or if you're really mentally ill, you might even think that Ark is the best survival game. But to me, one game that only recently popped into my peripheral may just outclass all of them. To me, please don't kill me. The one, the only, Forager. Huh? I hear you say? Well, allow me to cook. Forager is a small indie game created by Argentinian-born Marino Cavallero, also known as Hop Frog. It was originally created for a Yo-Yo Game Jam back in 2016, which managed to win him plane tickets to a conference in the US of A, baby, where he just so happened to meet a man who worked for Humble Bundle, who then offered him a publishing deal and skip forward to 2019 and voila! Forager is officially released to Windows, Nintendo and PlayStation, and then a year later for Xbox because I guess fuck them. And this is what we got. Okay, so now you're looking at it and you're asking me, how is this the best survival game? Well, my gooey, brain-rotted little goofball, allow me to explain. So this vitamin D deficiency marshmallow is you, the player, and you've just spawned in on a lonely island filled with resources to plunder, which sounds awfully familiar, but look at that grass, and breathe in that fresh air. Think to yourself, wow, this place sure would look way better with an Amazon warehouse and 2 Taco Bells as you proceed to tear down every tree and bludgeon every chicken that dare cross your path like a demented onslaught. But besides this, the main gameplay loop is what makes the game so addicting. For example, now, Forager's crafting mechanics are genuinely some of the best I've ever seen, and probably the most well balanced. To compare it, I would say that it's very similar to Rust's with its timed crafting. So, in Forager, if you want to craft, I don't know, let's just say 88 cooked fish, it won't do it instantly. Instead, it will take a few seconds to drop just one, and this time limit will scale up with more powerful items like royal steel or even better pickaxes, which I actually really like, as it gives my brain that runs at about 7 miles an hour a chance to catch up with making sure my home isn't being fucking destroyed. Forager's crafting system is also so simple that a man like me who has had skibbity slices more than 5 times this week can actually understand it. So it's very welcoming to new players and does hold your hand, but without being super in your face about it. Like, if you craft something that's more complicated, it definitely makes you feel accomplished, and this is really important to the game's success, as while in most other games, crafting is the worst part. I mean, it could just be me, but making your first stone sword in Minecraft feels about as rewarding as making a pot noodle. However, this game has a lot of stuff to craft, and about 13 different crafting stations, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. On one hand, it gives you more stuff to do and work towards, and on the other, imagine if you had 13 similar looking ovens that all did different shit. What I'm trying to say is at times it can feel slightly overwhelming, but this is my only real criticism of the crafting system, as I believe it combines just the right amount of annoyance and challenge to make it even a relatively simple and at times annoying mechanic much more enjoyable and rewarding. But speaking of something that's rewarding, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. For me, the weakest part about this game is probably the combat, as it's a little bit repetitive and just isn't really my favourite style. But even then, I still think it's really enjoyable, especially because Forager tries to blend relaxing and calming gameplay with hyper-death ultra-kill levels of insanity. And for what it's worth, it does a really good job at blending these styles together, especially with its Zelda-inspired fighting system, allowing players to use swords, bows, roll, and even the rob. Now, all of these items except the roll work on an upgrading system, allowing you to take a sword, for example, from a stinky limp dick slime sword into something that makes the Chernobyl meltdown look like fucking child's play. But hey, maybe you're not in the mood to throw hands. So how about you fasten 62 tons of C4 to an arrow and atomize any creature that dare ask for a shred of mercy. But this constant upgrade system for each item actually makes things, one, a lot simpler to keep track, compared to having a smorgasbord of different stages of tool in your already crammed inventory. And two, it feels significantly more rewarding, as every time you upgrade, it feels like you've actually accomplished something, especially as it gets into late game and items become significantly harder to get. So when you finally do get that next level of sword, pickaxe, or shovel, you genuinely feel as if you've achieved something special, unlike in other survival games where you just don't get that level of satisfaction. Speaking of satisfaction, you know what gives me satisfaction? Killing things. No, in-game. YouTube game! But Forager gives you plenty to atomize, from low-tier chickens and slimes to literal gods of death to that one alien from Ben 10. What I'm saying is, there is a very large diversity in enemies, each having their own biomes and unique attacks. Much like the rods, which I only just realized as reading this I haven't covered, so I'm just going to quickly blast through it. So there are 4 different rods, each having special powers that corresponds to the biome that they're found in. They are also all upgradable, and they're probably my favourite items in the game. It produces a beam of electricity that can destroy enemies, objects, and activate electrical gates, and it's also the favourite rod of many death row inmates. Next we have the ice rod. It freezes things and puts out fires. I mean, what else did you expect? And then up next we've got the fire rod, probably my favorite rod, and this is, well, just observe. Oh yeah, also it melts ice. And then there is the necro rod, which is just, well, the most ass rod out of all of them. I mean, you literally just summon a pack of guys to jump you, which, I mean, you know, if you're into that, cool, but me personally, I'll just pass. But where these rods become by far most useful is definitely the bosses, as the bosses in Forager can actually be super challenging with genuinely hard-hitting attacks that can get super overwhelming for new players, especially as the bosses pretty much just appear when you find them. But this is another aspect where Forager just shocks me, as a lot of the times in many other survival games, the bosses can be very hit or miss, or hell, not even there. But in Forager, there's a fucking void dimension, which is where you'll find nothing but pain, suffering, tears, and the cries of my shattered dreams, along with also most of the stuff you need for late game crafting. Oh, and plenty of them sweet coins. Wait, coins? Money? America! Yeah, you heard that right, folks. One of the main parts of this game's core gameplay loop is literally abusing the economy, manipulating stocks by purchasing up all the local land, gentrifying it, and then turning it into one big Amazon warehouse. You know what? Fuck it. Might as well just destroy the land so those pesky trees don't get in the way of us fixing everything. But in all seriousness, Forager works on a system of buying land, with each area having its own unique biome. So we got grasslands, the desert, Nether, Breaking Bad, and Detroit, with each one of these areas having different structures on, such as dungeons that are filled with loot, and also the places you'll find the rods and most of the game's bosses. Or you could come across a shrine that'll give you a choice of temporary special effects. This could range from giving you 2x speed and damage to turning you into Jeff Bezos by 2xing everything you sell. These effects are only temporary as mentioned, and you have to wait an hour between each use, but the inclusion of these definitely spice up the game a little more by giving you a break from whatever you're doing to go and sell the equivalent of the Burj Khalifa in bricks. And then there are puzzles, and yes, I am man enough to admit it. Sorry, crying. But I have searched the answers to a good half of these puzzles. I mean, some of them are just so confusing. Like, even in actual puzzle games, they are never this hard. I have never struggled this much with puzzles in any other game. Like, where the fuck does the cube go? And, I don't know, a really caring pickaxe? Like, the difficulty ranking here is wild. It goes from, do you know rainbow colors, to puzzles that are harder than designing a thermonuclear warhead. But other than this, there are also structures that give you side quests, like this guy who really wants shit, or the fairy queen who wants you to invest in her pyramid scheme. Or that guy who wants you to build a fucking museum. What do you think this is? Animal Crossing? And while these quests are admittedly goofy and tedious at times, they do make the world feel alive. And like, it's not just you in a vast ocean of emptiness and cactus fruit. Oh yeah, there's also a wardrobe that allows you to customize your character, but it's not like that cool or anything like that. Wait, hold on. Oh my god, is that a raccoon hat? Okay, No edit. Is that a fucking top hat? Okay, who needs Ark's character customizer when I can wear a super fancy backpack and be whatever the hell this thing is? Now, the island placements are actually randomly generated every time you play, making each world unique, which really adds to the replayability factor of the game, as you don't know what combination of islands you may get next. But how do we buy said islands? Well, money. But how do we get money? Well, there is a few ways, but most start with this little funny area, called the skill tree. If you've ever played a Ubisoft game, or like any game within the last 10 years, you'll definitely know what this is, but it's more or less just a place where you go to get perks. And in this game there are 4 main sectors, this being the industrial sector where you can unlock stuff like factories and oil drills. And then there is foraging, which allows you to get stuff like bows and eat rocks. And then there's combat that gives you perks like making potions and hitting things harder. And finally, there's capitalism. This is where you'll get some of the best perks in the game, like markets, which is where you'll make most of your money by selling and buying valuable items, with rarer items like gems being more valuable and more common items like flowers being the worst on the list. Or instead of sticking to society's conformities, you can do as the founding fathers intended by gambling your daughter's college fund. Oh yeah! Fuck, who needs farms and your slot machines? Let's go! So, with this angelic combination of crafting, fighting, and capitalism that drags you into this game and makes you keep playing until you pass out from exhaustion, you'd expect this game to be yet another success story. Well, you'd be right. With over 600,000 units sold in the first year, it was on track to be up there with some of the biggest survival games ever, and was even closing in on becoming fully multiplayer. But then it just stopped. That's right. Forager has not been touched in 3 years. In fact, it's not received a single Steam update since January of 2021. So what happened? Well, unexpectedly, the development for the game completely hit an abrupt stop, as the multiplayer was cancelled and a statement was made by the lead dev, Hopfrog, where he admits the game's code is a horrendous buggy mess, and that more or less it's completely unfixable. However, he continues the statement by saying, "I'm not a good programmer. I stepped back and let other individuals work on Forager for almost 2 years," end quote. He then proceeded to state that fixing this mess needed my urgent attention, end quote. It becomes quite clear that Hopfrog seems to be shifting the blame towards his employees. So the employees fought back, exposing Hopfrog for some pretty terrible stuff, like trying to pass off teamwork as his own, and others accusing him of paying employees minimum wage even after the game's skyrocket success. However, after these statements came to light, Hopfrog was quick to respond, apologising for his past statement and even taking the blame. However, many believe that this is just an attempt to save face and not all genuine. However, this statement was not enough to stop the backlash, as many now fault Hopfrog for the failure of the game. And yeah, I can definitely see why, especially if it's true how he treated his staff. But what does the future of Forager hold? Will it slowly continue to break until it's no longer playable and go down as the next big piece of lost media? Or will it make a return? Well, according to the developer, this isn't the end of Forager. In fact, as recent as March 2024, he posted this, which could be a teaser for a return to Forager, or even Forager 2. However, I definitely have my doubts, as he has made promises like this in the past, so I'm really not getting my hopes up, especially because of his previous controversies. So, what do? Well, all we can do is sit back and hope that Forager gets the ending that it deserves and doesn't just become another product of greed and abuse. While you're sitting back and pondering on what I've just said, why don't you like and subscribe and maybe drop a comment if you like the video. I've been Yummy Chemicals and thank you for watching.